wrong thinking or wrong behavior or unaccountable behavior. And really, what we have to do, even to straighten out our own lives, and let's face it, people, if we had our own lives in order, how would we be allowing, all of us together, without questioning it every day, without standing against it so staunchly that this could never prevail over us? How is it that we have allowed a purported banking system merely to intervene upon our rights to issue promissory obligations, to obfuscate our promissory obligations to each other into a falsified debt to the banking system, subjecting that to interest, which is the cause of terminal monetary failure? This is just one example how a seemingly, quote, small, unquote, aberration in our own thoughts contributes eventually to the most monumental problems we can even conceive of. As I have often said, mastery of any issue always results in consensus. But even the process of mastering any issue results in consensus all along the way. We realize what we do, or we do not realize what we do. And these facts, however we may determine them, determine the quality and the success that we have in anything that we attempt to do. Division is the consequence of non-resolution. It does not exist necessarily because there is no answer, or even because there is no conclusive proof of solution. Division exists anywhere the affected are themselves irresponsible to a fact of solution. On literally a daily basis, I answer to ever preposterous assertions that we are the unwitting victims of a Ponzi scheme. I regularly answer yet to this ever pretended authority, not just since some first pretended authority pretended to establish this. I answer to this preposterous assertion only because further pretenders continue to disseminate their own mere ignorance that the obfuscation of our promissory obligations, which brought us here, equates to a scheme such persons cannot even themselves define. For no possible credible person, in fact, in eternity, can rightly equate a truthful definition of voluntary submission to a Ponzi scheme, which promises, perhaps wrongly, undue reward. No possible credible person can equate even this promise of undue reward to involuntary submission to a wholly different process of irreversible multiplication of falsified indebtedness, which can only deny every subject of the process due reward. We only contribute to our own persisting, escalating dispossession ourselves by disseminating this incompetence, and we only demonstrate our incompetence when we disseminate it. Likewise, people write daily that money itself is evil. This likewise unqualified idea itself departs from the original teaching that mere love for money or material wealth is a blindness to a far greater breadth and volume of wealth. So too, it is even a misunderstanding of the teaching it may hope to raise. Yet the raising of a false tenet that money itself is evil too destroys us, because it disseminates the incompetence that mere tokenization of our contribution of our production, that we may participate in just trade, somehow damages us, when in fact there isn't even any power to damage us in immutable tokens of value themselves. We are destroyed instead today by an obfuscation of those necessary tokens, which not only purposely destroys immutability, but takes from every transaction to an ever greater extent, until all possibility of trade is extinguished. All the while yet, under the present obfuscation, just trade is impossible. For just reward for production is impossible, because our contribution to the wealth of the whole is exploited, even to an extent which dispossesses us of all reward for our contribution to production. This is not a fault of real money. It is a fault of a purposed obfuscation of money, which obfuscation exists and is imposed upon us merely to steal from us. We cannot rectify that fault of the obfuscation of money by crying instead that all money is evil. Nor can we prosper in just trade if we fail at all to conceive of just trade, which conception equates to just units, whether we recognize so or not. It is not the units which establish justice which damage us. It is a denial of just units. And so it is a denial of justice which damages us. It is not money which damages us. It is a purposed obfuscation of money, meant not only to steal from us, but which, however purposely or inadvertently, steals from us to ever greater extents, until we are even denied the ever necessary means of producing further. Daily, too, Mere imitators write that money cannot be debt, even as it is only the present, ever unjustifiable imposition of interest which inherently, irreversibly, and therefore terminally multiplies falsified debt into terminal sums of falsified debt. Terminal debt is the consequence of interest. It is not the consequence of debt, for neither debt nor obligations to pay for the production of others have any power to multiply themselves. In both cases, we are still only paying principal, as we would under any just, unexploited economy. Nor then, as I have taught for 43 years, do justifiable and enforceable promissory obligations damage us. For in no other prospective vehicle can and do we solve inflation and deflation. For no other natural process but paying and retiring principal at the rate of consumption of the related property can precipitate in an immutable currency by maintaining a perpetual 1-to-1-to-1 relationship between remaining circulation, remaining value of represented property, and remaining obligation to pay for the property or redeem the currency in property by just that much circulation. By no other soluble vehicle, therefore, can we even extend a volume of circulation to sustain further prosperity, because nothing but granting our right to engage in unexploited promissory obligations immediately and directly invests in the necessity of immediate further prosperity. Yet even as these facts prove monetization can only rightly precipitate in promissory obligations, imitators persist every day in asserting still that money cannot be debt, that it must be spent or gifted into circulation. Whatever these careless claims mean, and despite their obvious preclusive ramifications. We've explained the faults of denying the people their rightful authority to regulate the circulation themselves by denying them their right to issue their own promissory obligations to each other. So these 11th hour pretenders, mindlessly advocating only spending or gifting money into circulation, stand against solution rather than for it, because they deny us both the rightful authority of determining the circulation as is necessary to sustain further prosperity, and because, therefore, they deny us that prosperity which too is our right, so long as indeed we can pay for our consumption from the pool of wealth as we consume of it. Promissory obligations are not just a casual idea. They are both a vital vehicle and even the only plausible vehicle of the only possible just monetary system or process for monetizing our production. All of us, we all should know better than these casual, aberrant thoughts which are, in fact, so divisive,